Hello, welcome. Frosty10 here. Welcome back to Dead Island 2, and I just wanted to talk today about the optimum settings for the balance of immersion and also, just proceeding through the game in a fun way. So as you can see from my screen, I've turned off a lot of the UI. So, alright, let's just have a look. I'll just show you through. The first thing I've done, slightly improved sensitivity. That's the only change I've made to controls. Don't worry about that. So this is kind of a rough guide. So one of the things you can do to adjust your difficulty, as it were, because there's no difficulty setting, is your field of view. So this is a normal default field of view. So we change. I'll just show you for the sake of it. And we just go to 100. And now we get a much wider field of view. It's kind of unnatural, but then again, depending on what games you use to play, FPSs, etc., maybe you prefer a wider field of view. It's much easier to prevent zombies sneaking up on you when you have a wider field of view, naturally. But it does have some negatives. So one of the negatives is you notice the charge up effect of my weapon. And yeah, I know my face. When I charge up to attack, there's a big grey section that appears. And let me just... Yeah. He's got no eyes. Sit down. Okay. So there's a distortion to your view that's more noticeable when you have a wider field of view when you're doing a charged attack. And the other thing is, I think getting snuck up on by zombies is kind of part of the game and adds to the immersion of the game, which I like, even though it can be, stressful at times. So I do prefer, and that way the charging effect doesn't obscure the screen as much, in my eyes. Again, something you can try out for yourself, see what works best for you. Now, more importantly, UI. There's a lot of options here, and I love options. I love to have the choice of setting things up the way I want them. And in this case, the settings I've gone with, I think, directly improve the playability of the game and feed a lot into, how I reviewed the game, how I felt about the game at the end, and help to mitigate some of the complaints people have about the game, whether, repetitive sort of missions and side quests and things. The nature of those quests and those missions, it changes completely because I've turned off compass, for one. So I don't have a little bar at the top telling me where objectives are or where secrets are and things. Gone. Stuff that. I've got quest objective information as dynamic. You could just turn that off if you want. I just have it pop up shortly as soon as they say what you got to do, where you got to do it. And we have objective markers off. So how does this work exactly? It just turns them off. And this is why I've got these. At least one selected setting will adversely affect your gameplay experience. And I've got two of them. In my opinion, it's the opposite. I think changing objective markers, in particular objective markers, compass as well, I suppose, they're both big. But objective markers, removing that has improved the gameplay experience massively. For one, you don't know what you're going to do. For the most part. You can still check, it's not like you've completely lost them. You can just press your map. It'll tell you where to go if you got the quest on. If you don't have the quest on. So you track your quest, you can still check your quests, and then it says, it says I haven't talked to them yet. So this is what happens. One of the issues, and one of the positives I think too, is that you do end up going the wrong way. You go off on a tangent. You end up somewhere doing something else, exploring a building or a house. Yeah, I'm not going to trigger the mission, that'd be a bit silly. But it does sort of create this chaos for your first playthrough in particular. Once you've, done it a few times, there'll be instances here and there where you kind of go, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But for your first playthrough, it really does add a little bit more variety, a little bit more of this spontaneity and this nuance, this feeling of it being more fresh. I think it is important. It does put pressure sometimes where you miss an objective. You don't search hard enough, and then you go running off and going, oh yeah, I've done all that. And then you end up having to go back. But at the same time, I think it's good because it made me want to search through more buildings and houses and look for things and be more curious. Because I was just like, not the pressure. You don't have the pressure of having it on your screen, having it on the top right corner going, go do this, go do this, go do this. Instead, it's gone. And I'm free to do what I like to do. Explore, kill zombies, and then maybe proceed the quest later when I check my map and go, oh, I should go there. But I don't have to go there just yet. I can just run around. So I feel like, and this is the case in a lot of open world games as well, is that the UI does create a kind of pressure, and this is sort of evident really in Elden Ring, where it doesn't have that sort of UI. Again, we had the memes about, Ubisoft and how they would design it and have that all on the screen. I think for this particular game, because it's not a massive open world and has smaller sections, even if you don't, check your objective thing on the map very often, you'll still, get to it eventually. You'll find a way to it. But you can just sort of freely explore in the meantime, or just have fun and take the stress away. I feel like some games, they hold your hand, and it's to their own detriment, really, because they have made effort to make a game that's interesting and fun. If you approach it with the right spirit, I suppose, or you just, get into it. And having ejected markers off just makes me happier. Even though it does make me, I do get lost. The first time through, I did make a fool of myself. And yes, I did film the whole thing is there. I got the whole playthrough on the channel, so you can watch me get lost and get confused and fail to solve puzzles and things and go, what am I doing? Even the most basic things become much more difficult when it doesn't appear on your straight in front of you on your map with a giant yellow symbol going, go here, go here. If that's gone, you just suddenly, oh yeah, what's there? What's over there? I just get distracted and go do other stuff and run around and find side quests and beat up dudes and just keep going. So yeah, this is what I'm trying to sell to you. I do recommend first time through, turn off your objective markers. Later on, once you've done it once, you'll be able to remember where everything is generally. So you'll be okay. But I think without the compass and without objective markers, the game is better. Other settings that matter. I've got these things on, but they don't pop up much. Reticle, I got dynamic. Again, you want to sort of take away from some of the game type, the game experience at times. You're still aiming, but you don't really need a dot, I find. And I have no guns on this character because it's a low one, because I wanted to show you more sort of relatable sort of thing. Ready messages on, all that stuff's on. All this stuff's pretty basic. Stamina bar is optional. I do think you could turn stamina bar off. And again, that's sort of where I feel like your character breathes so heavily. It's pretty obvious when you're out of stamina. But again, if your character can block, I think keeping a stamina bar on is probably a good idea, just in case. And if you're in intense battles, it's good to see the actual bar itself. But I wish it was more dynamic. But it sort of is dynamic. It doesn't really show too often, unless you really go crazy. Weapon information, I got dynamic. Curveball information, dynamic. You don't need to go too crazy. Zombie health. This is probably the one, honestly, I feel like you could turn this off. You could go without it. But I don't know. I feel it is helpful, especially against tougher enemies, to know how much health they have left. The lobbers, slobbers. Some of them and then some of the later enemies as well, it's very helpful to know that you're whittling them down, because it's not as obvious how much damage you're doing to the later enemies. One in particular, the transforms. But it's a good option to have. I think I'm still, have memories of the original games, so I like the health bar. I think that's fine. And it's stamina bar, stability bar, sort of helpful too. You could go full immersion, and turn interaction locations off, and then that would just completely leave you in the dark. But the quest objectives off leaves you in the dark most of the time anyway, so that would be the next level, but I kind of feel like that's a bit too far. Then again, you can do your own thing. So, oh, that's pretty basic. Damage numbers, I had it off just to have a look at it. I think they do add a bit of clutter, but I do like to see them, because as you progress through, I think later on, once you hit max level, then you can turn them off. I think that's probably not a big issue. But early on, you want to see which one of your weapons is more effective. So it's important data you can use. QuickTime event information you can turn off or on. It's the same QuickTime event, and one of the cards, the best cards, skills you get in the game is where it skips it. Honestly, I think it's called Elusive. Elusive? It's such a good skill card. You get it at a really high level, and it just saves you having to spam square and then R2. Which it's the same QuickTime event each time, so you could turn it off once you've done it enough, to be honest, and then just get it off your screen. So that's probably a good one to do. And a hazardous threat indicator, I keep this on because I can die from explosions. And I played through as Amy first run through, so I died a lot. So I just, one less thing that can kill me. Just give me a chance to dodge it. Just give me a chance to get out of the way. It's just, explosive items before they explode, they have little red caution thing, and then it's like, oh no, it's going to blow up. So I think that's nice to keep on. Again, it's not realistic, not immersive, but I think the balance between immersion and gameplay enjoyment is met with this particular setup. But again, you tell me what you think. What do you think is the best setup? I think this is good. I think objective markers off and compass off really improve the game. You try it out. Tell me what you think. Alright, it's been Frosty Fire Dan. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.